I last spoke to you. So, but I think, so I'm not sure if you recognise this website or not. I think many of you have already signed up. If you haven't, then just here on this is our homepage, and just here on the right, there's a link through to sign up to our membership. And I think Adele has already put the URL for that in the chat bar. So hopefully you'll be able to access that and sign up. We will email your membership number to you, which I will do after this session. Just below that, we run a lot of events, online webinars, which you're welcome to sign up for. They're completely free, and we do bookings through Eventbrite. They are webinars about all aspects of starting and running your business. Please feel free to have a look and to sign up for them. So the database I'd like to show you today, which many of you are probably possibly familiar with, is called COBRA. Now, obviously, I'm using a computer to demonstrate this to you, just to say that this website, it is optimized also for use on a mobile phone. So if you're ever looking at it on a mobile phone, it will appear slightly different, but all the headings are there and you'll be able to access things. So if you click on Data and Resources, and then access to SBREC online databases, we will get coming up, hopefully, here we are, the list of all the databases that are available to you. So here at the top, there's a tab that says available remotely. And with your free membership, you'll be able to use Business Source Premier, COBRA, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, European Newsstream, and Exporters Almanac. I think if Ariane, I think you might be importing and exporting. So Exporters Almanac, that could be quite useful to you in terms of finding organisations or perhaps companies overseas. It's a good tool for anyone who's importing and exporting around the world. So that one might be useful for you. European Newsstream and Business Source Premier, they've got journal and newspaper articles on. They can be quite helpful if you're looking for additional information for your market research when you write your business plan. But today we're going to be looking especially at COBRA. I know I've introduced it to some of you before, but we'll have a look at it in perhaps a little more depth. So when you click on the link to COBRA, you will see at the top an orange and blue box which says membership number or ticket number, and you'll need to type in your membership number to log into the database, and then you'll be logged in and away you can go. So today, Adele, as she said earlier, has asked me to look at some of the regulatory things, some of the things you do, the laws you have to comply with for your particular business. And so we're going to have a bit more of an in-depth look at that now. So one of the businesses that I hope is on the call is somebody who's starting a mobile coffee cart, and I thought I'd start with that because it's quite a good way to show you the different regulations that a business might need to comply with. Here we are. So on this database, they've got about 400 business opportunity profiles loaded up, and these are profiles of different businesses and the kind of things you need to know in order to start a business in that sector. And you'll see each of the business opportunity profiles is set out in the same way, but you'll see it talks about the qualifications and skills, key market issues and trends, so that's what the demand is for your particular product or service, and it talks about the trading, commercial and legal issues and the legislation, and these are the bits that we're going to have a look at in particular today. So we've got an introduction to the mobile coffee cart. It might be on a bicycle, it might be more of a van, which I think is what hopefully the delegate coming today is looking to do. I think they've got a van and they're looking to convert it. But the first thing it actually says here in the introduction is something that somebody will need to think about. And it says here that anyone operating a mobile coffee cart will require a street trading license from the local council, the local authority. So that's something that when you're operating your mobile coffee cart, you would need to think about. Where are you going to pitch your cart? Where are you going to park it to serve people? And what sort of permission might you need, either from the landowner, really, in order to trade at that point? So some of you might need to pass some courses. Some of you, there are some recommended courses, depending on your type of business, that you might want to undertake. And there's some examples of these ones that relate to food industries here at the top. One of the ones that's definitely recommended is a food hygiene course. And this is very useful here because it gives you the cost of it, because a lot of these courses unfortunately aren't free. So you will need, when you're starting your business, to factor in things such as the cost of any training that you need to do. And here it's saying that the cost will be £25. So you've got an idea of how much you might need to spend before starting your business. Obviously, you need to keep yourself up to date, and there's a section here called Industry Awareness and Product Knowledge, and that's keeping yourself up to date with the trends that are going on. But many of these magazines will also, when there is a change in regulations around food hygiene, for example, or around other aspects of a business, a lot of these magazines will pick that up, or there might be websites as well, but they will pick it up, and they're often a very good source of keeping yourself up to date with some of the changing regulations in a particular industry. So I would highly recommend looking at different websites, some of which are listed here, in order to keep yourself up to date with what the changes are in your particular business. Below this is a section called Key Market Issues and Trends. So that's what's going on in the market at the moment. One of the things that it highlights here is the government wishes to ban the single-use plastics. And obviously for something like a coffee cart, which is very much food on the go or drinks on the go, this could have a really quite an effect on how they might operate. It's something that they are going to have to consider, how they might sustainably provide their drinks to their clients. So this here will keep you up to date with some of the trends and the changes that are coming through at the moment. It also links here. There are also some links here through to franchises, should you wish to purchase a franchise. For some people, franchising is a good way of starting a business. It's not for everybody, but here it happens to mention that there are franchise operators available. So coming down a bit further, this is where we get to the trading, commercial and legal issues. And this starts to talk about the different rules and regulations that you're going to have to comply with. So the first one was about getting a street trading license from the local authority, and the cost of these licenses sadly varies depending whereabouts you're going to be pitching your stall, and this is for trading on public land, so in a normal street, if you like. However, you might also be thinking about trading on private land. In other words, you might, for example, here it says you might be pitching at a festival, or for example, you might be, I know it's at my local railway station, there's often a coffee cart there, but the land there is owned by National Rail, so they need permission from National Rail to park their carts there. So you need to think about who owns the bit of land where you're going to be trading, And that's the kind of thing that COBRA will talk about, and will help you to get to grips with. One of the other big things about any food business, it might be the mobile coffee cart, it might be a restaurant, it might be like Ariane, that you're producing a particular food product to go into supermarkets and stores. Any food business has to be registered. It has to register with the local council. And here there is guidance about doing that. This happens to be talking about coffee carts in particular, but in fact any food business buying, selling, manufacturing food has to be registered with the local authority, and they come out and they inspect it. And there's a bit more about these inspections here, where it says the food hygiene rating schemes. So you might have seen on the door of a restaurant or a cafe a green and black sticker with a rating number 1 to 5, which tells you about how clean that particular establishment is. Well, that food rating is where this inspection is given by this food inspection. So it's really important that you register your business, and that the local authority will come out and inspect it. Here, just below that, it talks about other food safety and hygiene regulations, in particular about allergens, because there are certain regulations about the labelling of food and drinks, and that's to do with allergens, with people who have allergies to particular ingredients. Just below this is something about coffee cart suppliers. So if you wanted to buy your coffee cart from new, it costs between £10,000 and £40,000. That's quite expensive, but it does give you some idea of what your startup costs might be. And that probably is something that you've been thinking about as you've been investigating your business as well. And just below that, it's very good at giving you some ideas around how much the resources you might need will cost. So things like the coffee beans, the hot chocolate, or the tea bags, things like that. So it gives you a price here, so you can think about how much your ongoing business costs are going to be. As well as that, it also gives you a list of possible suppliers who you might wish to approach, so they can so you can get the supplies that you need. Just below that, it talks about VAT. So taking payment and VAT, these are things that every business has to think about. And in all the profiles, you will see a section on VAT and taking payment, and how you're going to work out your pricing structures. And those are things that you will obviously need to take account of, because for VAT, you'll have to declare it to the tax people, and you'll have to pay it. So you need to think about that and consider that when you're running your business. It also talks about the taking payment. So many of these coffee carts, they use something like iZettle or something like that, one of the little square card readers, very easy to just tap and go. Below this is some more rules that somebody running a coffee cart would need to comply with. Consumer and business legislation, and also waste disposal. So how are you going to get rid of any waste that the coffee cart may generate, like old coffee grounds or something like that, but also encouraging people to dispose thoughtfully of their litter once they've finished their coffee or their tea. So there's information about that, about encouraging your customers to be litter conscious, if you like. But there's information about that. Health and safety is again something that all businesses have to comply with, and that will vary according to the business that you're running and whether or not you're employing people. If it's just yourself, then the health and safety is much simpler to comply with, unless you've got big pieces of machinery like a chainsaw, if you're a tree surgeon, for example. then the health and safety, if it's just you involved in your business, is not going to be too complex. But if you're selling to customers, if you've got people coming into a shop, if you are manufacturing things, depending on what your business is, you will have to think about the health and safety of your employees and your customers. We mentioned earlier about keeping up to date with all the changes in legislation or regulations, and trade bodies can be useful for this. It mentions a few here, like the Beverage Standards Association or the Nationwide Caterers Association. These are organisations, trade organisations, which you may benefit from joining. Sometimes by joining these organisations, you can get discounts or preferential rates on your insurance, because they might do a deal with a particular insurer. But these trade bodies are also produce information to help you really keep up to date with any legislation changes, any regulation changes in your particular business. So trade bodies can be a very good and useful source of information around that. Below this, there's some ideas for promoting your business. And then, as Adele mentioned earlier, the really one of the big things, insurance. And in each of these business opportunity profiles, it lists the type of insurance that you might need. And indeed, it says here, specialist insurance for mobile coffee carts is available from insurance and brokers such as NCAS Insurance. So it does give you links through to different insurance companies whose products and offers you might like to explore. If you're not sure, then you can always go onto something like Go Compare, or what's the other one with the meerkats, that one, onto the particular websites, comparison websites, because they do not only domestic insurance, but they also list business insurance on there. So you can kind of shop around and see that you're really getting the best value for money in terms of the insurance that you might need and you might be purchasing. Below that again is the legislation. So these are the regulations and the acts of parliament that you will need to comply with when you're running your business. For some, it will be more than others, but here, for example, it's talking about the food safety and hygiene regulations. Those are probably the biggest set of regulations that govern food at the moment. But it does detail this in quite some, it goes into quite a bit of detail about this. Again, it talks about health and safety, disposing of litter, and the street trading licenses. So I hope that this has given you an overview of how, by looking at these business opportunity profiles, you can really see in quite some depth the pieces of legislation and regulations that you will need to think about when you're starting and running your business. I was wondering if anybody else had a business idea that they would like me to try and look at. You can either turn your mic on or put it in the chat bar, and Adele hopefully will be able to read it out. Has anyone got a business idea?
Organic skincare we're seeing here.
Organic skincare?
In the chat, yes. This is Layla. Layla, do you want to just speak, just briefly explain what you're doing in a minute or less?
Yeah, hi Esther.
Hello.
It's a organic skincare brand for people with dermatological skin condition.
Yes.
It's for people who have eczema, rosacea, and acne, but it's more about having a good ingredients in a product rather than solving their issue and type. And yeah, if we can do the same thing for a organic skincare. So I'm looking for like compliance, regulations, licensings that I might need. It's a one-person business at the moment, so like I don't think I need high or like the employer safety stuff. But I want to look at everything that I can be liable for, and also how I can best deal with the manufacturer that are outside of the UK. So when it comes to regulation and liabilities.
Yes, okay. Well, so I'll have a search for skincare, and we'll have a look at that. Oh, it's timed out. It's not terribly helpful.
Thank you.
And you'll see here that there's quite a list of things that have come up here. But there is at the top here, there's one called the Natural Skincare Maker. There's also a profile of a toiletries retailer, and a profile also of an organic beauty salon as well. So if we have a look at the Natural Skincare Maker, because I think this one will also cover organics, which is what Layla is particularly interested in. So Layla, you can see it set out in the same way, talking about the trade and commercial issues and the legislation for your particular business. So as we go down, it does here at the top, it talks about or it mentions that there's a range of legislation that you will need to comply with. So first of all, we've got the courses that might be helpful to you. Again, we've got some websites and magazines, things like beauty magazines. That's one of the biggest magazines going, you know, to help you keep up to date with what's going on. And in there, they do cover, in Beauty Magazine, they do cover the changes in rules as well. It also gives you a link to the beauty show, and that, as it says here, is a 2-day show that takes place in Coventry. And it's got a load of suppliers and product manufacturers exhibiting there. That can be often be quite a useful place to go, or going to exhibitions like that can be very useful to keep up to see what's happening and to keep up to date with things as well. There's also the Olympia Beauty Show that's held in London, so obviously that's a bit nearer than Coventry. Here you mentioned that you were talking about organic cosmetics in particular, and here's a couple of 2 or 3 blogs that they've highlighted here. Again, some reports. You were particularly asking about the regulation of cosmetics, and here it talks about, yes, this is the regulation that is still, that you will still need to comply with at the moment. We're still, although we're not, the UK is no longer part of the EU, we still use, some of their legislation is still in force in the UK. And this here discusses that and what you would need to comply with, things like a product information file and things like that. A cosmetic product safety report, which you'll need for each of the products that you're producing. So hopefully that will give Layla, that will give you some idea of the things that you will need, and also the labelling, which is another thing that you'll need to think about, how to ensure that you've got the right amount of product in the bottle. So if you're selling 100 grams of something, there must be 100 grams of that product in the bottle. You can't be underselling by any measure, and you'll need to list any ingredients that there might be in the product. Talks about the record keeping and product recalls. If for any reason you need to recall one of your products, then obviously you'll need to think about how you're going to go about that. Here's the some more information about weights and measures, so about the volume that's in a particular, or the weight of a particular bottle of product. And you can't pretend to be somebody else's product. So that's about trademark. That means not infringing other people's trademark. You can't pretend to be Nivea, for example. You have to very much be your own. It has to very much be your own product that you're selling. Data protection. Most businesses, or a lot of businesses, will have to think about data protection, and that's about keeping your customers and your suppliers' data safe. So, for example, you might have, if you've got a newsletter that you send out, you'll have people's email addresses. Well, you have to ensure that nobody can hack in and get that list of email addresses and then use them for spamming purposes. You need to make sure that you keep your customers' data safe. And in the same way, you might have, if you're buying products for your particular business, it might be that you have suppliers' bank account details because you need to pay them. So again, it's about keeping that kind of data safe. But data protection is something that will apply to any business, really. So it's important to think about keeping abreast of that. Further down here, it talks about advertising standards, making sure that you're not making claims that you can't back up, basically. So when you're advertising your beauty products, you have to be able to substantiate your claims. You have to be able to prove that what you're saying is correct. And there's some information about that as well. Here, there's a particular part about organic and vegan skincare, and the Soil Association, for example, regulates farms that farm organically, and so you can register with them, or that's how you might go about registering with one of these particular organisations here. The next thing it comes on to is Skin Lab premises. I don't know if you are going to do this from home or if you're going to rent a small lab at all, but this talks about the prices you might expect to pay for if you wanted to hire a laboratory in order to work in. Again, we've got here a bit about sourcing the equipment and resources that you might need, again with the costs for that, so that will enable you to think about your startup costs. I'm going to come down a bit. Again, it talks about fire safety, first aid, protective equipment, because especially if you're employing other people, that might be necessary as well. So here it talks about selling a bit and setting up an e-commerce website. Again, there's a section on pricing, markups and VAT and taking payment. So how are you going to work out what your costs, what your products are costing you to produce, and how much you then need to sell them for in order to make a profit? You'll need to be thinking about that, and this part here will help you. There's some more consumer protection legislation that's listed that you would have to comply with. And other pieces of business legislation as well. And again, workplace health and safety. So all these pieces of legislation and the rules are listed here for you. Again, there's a section on trade body membership, like we saw for the coffee cart, and how to promote your business. Again, at the bottom, there's a section on insurance. And the insurance, as I said earlier, will vary depending on what your business is. So the insurance cover that you need will vary a bit. But again, it gives you here some links to some providers of different types of business insurance. Again, below this is the link to, it details the particular pieces of legislation that your products will have to comply with here. There was also, and I'm going to have to search for it, I think. I'm going to scroll back up to the top again. And I want to go back a page because I thought there was, to do with hair and beauty, there was another fact sheet that I hope is going to come up. It's this one here. There's a fact sheet here which is called the Compliance Guide for the Hair and Beauty Sector. And this in particular covers different aspects of any hair and beauty business, like local authority registration, but also it looks at sunbeds. But again, there's something about cosmetics regulations as well in here that will be helpful to you. Things like playing music, that might not be, but many of these headings here I think would help somebody like Layla who's starting a cosmetics business. Does that kind of give an overview of what might help you there, Layla?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. I think this is all the information that I needed for the compliance and stuff, and it has much more. Actually, it can help me with the forecasting my financials as well, which is great. Which brings me to a question. If we have time and no one else have a question about this, I wanted to ask two more things. One, does COBRA have any business plan or financial forecasting, details which can someone use to create one of those, and a place where you can find potential partners for different stuff like manufacturing, supplying, shipments, and things like that? Because online there is so much details, but I think if it's in COBRA, then it's probably more reliable resources.
Okay, thank you. Yes, there are fact sheets on writing a business plan, certainly. And this, I don't know if Adele, if you have a business plan pro forma that you give your delegates at all?
We do. We have a business model and plan tool that people have been spending time filling out.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so that's already a great start that you've got one that's already mapped out for people to use. Here, this fact sheet here talks about writing your business plan and the things that will need to go in it. It doesn't actually give you the plan itself, but it kind of tells you what needs to be going into the plan. And many business startup organizations produce their own plan. They all cover the same essential elements. They might be in a different order, but everyone's going to have to provide financial forecasts. Everyone's going to have to talk about any premises that they might need or things like that. So all business plans contain the same information, if you like, but not necessarily in the same order. So this is looking at the business plan fact sheet. And then at the bottom, it talks about things like a SWOT analysis. If you have to write, you'll probably have to write that in your business plan. And there's another page of information on writing a SWOT analysis. But here you'll see below that a lot of links to other fact sheets in the database. So thinking about developing your marketing plan or forecasting your cash flow. And those are things that will need to go into your business plan. So certainly all that kind of thing is covered in COBRA. There's also one here on choosing the right business legal structure. And I know Adele and other people at Turn, they'll have sent out some information about the different legal structures, such as being a sole trader, opening a limited company, perhaps a community interest company, whatever it might be. But there is information about each of these. So this particular sheet talks about the different legal structures, and it gives you then links through to another page of further information. So for example, this one is about setting up as a sole trader. So this also is on here for you, so you can use that. Something else that Layla mentioned was about, I think a bit about market research. Did I understand that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are some pieces of market research. Over here on the left-hand side, you'll see a series of blue boxes, one of which is called Industry Snapshots. and underneath it is one called sector updates. We'll just have a quick look at those. And these are overviews of different industries that are around at the moment. And some industries are doing well at the moment, some perhaps not quite so well. Well, I don't know if you've got anyone looking at fashion at the moment, but we'll just have a look at the fashion retail snapshot. And
we do. We have some fashion entrepreneurs in the house right now, actually, who are looking to import from a manufacturer and design their own stuff.
Okay, so I've picked a good one then, that's all right. So this page here, this is obviously an overview of what's going on in the fashion retail industry at the moment. It gives some headline numbers. Obviously, the amount spent on fashion items dropped dramatically in 2020. It has picked up again last year and this year. And it also highlights some of the top trends that they're expecting to see. So gender neutral fashion, luxury streetwear, sustainable fashion, that's becoming more and more to the fore, if you like. And linked with that is clothing rentals, people renting clothing rather than buying. And so COBRA will give you some headline trends and forecasts for what is expected to happen in a particular sector. Again, at the bottom, it lists some reports that have been written here on the right, and here on the left, some of the trade bodies that are active in a particular sector, such as the British Retail Consortium, for example. So these industry overviews, these industry snapshots, give you a nice overview of what is happening in a particular industry at the moment. Alongside that, just below it are the sector updates, and these are pieces of news about a particular subject. I think somebody was asking about Brexit. There's one here about post-Brexit trade and cooperation. This section is going to be updated very, very frequently, because at the moment there's yet another round of negotiations between the UK and the EU. But here we've got some news articles and some overviews about trading safely with the EU at the moment, about importing from the EU, or indeed selling to the EU as well. So these are pieces of information that will help you when you start thinking about the demand for your particular product or service. If you're able to come into the centre, we've got a couple of other databases that you can use. One's called Ibis World and one is called MarketLine, and they are in-depth market research databases. They will go into much more depth than perhaps you'll see on COBRA. COBRA will give you a good starting point, but then if you come into the centre, you'll be able to use the market research databases as well, and they'll give you much more in-depth information on the markets that you're trying to enter, really. Was there anything else that you would like me to cover, Adele?
Well, we can ask that question out to the crew here. Is there anything else, any other questions that you have, or anything else that you're curious about how to find out through COBRA?
Perhaps just whilst people are thinking, I know you mentioned that somebody might be importing or exporting,
Yes.
and there are various pieces of information about that. So under this heading on the left, business information fact sheets, you can see a number of fact sheets about all sorts of different topics, really. Documents you must keep, developing a marketing plan. But we can, I'm just going to do a search here under business startup. No, sorry, under running a business. There is then a heading on exporting and importing. So for those of you who are thinking about exporting and importing, there is information here about that.
Very interesting. What about something like, because I know this is a challenge that some of our entrepreneurs have been facing. What about finding a supplier or finding a manufacturer? Is there any resources on COBRA about, you know, either the process of finding a manufacturer or supplier, or even recommendations around finding a supplier and manufacturer, and also whether, well, also about whether those suppliers could be overseas or inside the UK, and sort of comparing that in any way?
Certainly, we can have a look. I think when we were looking at the profiles of the coffee cart and the natural skincare maker, there were suppliers listed there of particular products. If on the other hand you're developing your own product, so for example the nut butter that Ariane's creating, then obviously that's going to be a bit more different, and it's not coming up specifically with anything on here at the moment, I'm afraid. We've got a listing of companies here in the UK, and you can search that company list by so you can look for companies that are in a particular sector. So for example, you can look for companies that manufacture food, or you can look for companies that manufacture skincare products to see if they might be possible manufacturers of your particular product. There's also another website called Compass, and that has lists companies both in UK and worldwide. And again, that's quite good if you're looking for suppliers or manufacturers of a particular product.
Very interesting. Is that Compass?
KOMPASS.com.
Ooh, cool. I'm going to pop that in the chat. This is very interesting. So this is a global business to business online directory.
Yes, that's right.
Very cool. Find suppliers, find buyers. Love this. Yeah, because it's what we've been finding is sort of like going online to research for this kind of stuff feels very obscured and very gatekeepy and very, even I would even go as far as to say almost scammy sometimes, like some of the things that you can access through Google searching, like it's pretty obvious that they've been trying to get themselves in front of you, and that maybe they're not a typical supplier that many other businesses are using. So it's an interesting thing that we've been coming against.
Yes, certainly. If you're thinking about trading overseas, then the government has quite a lot of information on their website. But if you're thinking of importing and exporting, there are organisations that can help you. So, for example, the Hong Kong Trade and Development Council acts as an intermediary between firms in the UK and firms in China. So they offer a kind of gateway service, if you like, and will help if somebody in the UK is looking to source something from a Chinese factory, they will help them to do so. They will help them with find the right manufacturer in China. So sometimes those kind of organisations can help. And the UK, there's things like the UK-Russia Business Forum, or organisations like this that are really worth contacting to see how they might assist you when you're trading overseas. I mentioned earlier one of the other databases called the Exporters Almanac, and again that's for companies all over the world, regardless of where they're trading. But that might also be a good place to look, because it has listings of businesses on there, and trade bodies that are active in a particular country as well. So that might be useful if people are trading overseas.
So useful. Friends, let us know your questions. Let us know the challenges that you're coming up against, the things that you are unsure about in terms of working within the British system. And maybe Esther can show us on COBRA how to find those answers.
So Esther, I wanted to say what Adele said, that it's so difficult to find a manufacturer. Actually, she's right. I am looking for one and I have contacted hundreds of them. It's been 2 months and I still haven't heard quite what I wanted to hear. Like Adele said, they put online that it's organic manufacturing and they can formulate and do blah, 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 all of this, but they get back to me with something that is not what I'm looking for or what they actually said in their website, which makes it so hard and, you know, tiring, because I don't know how to deal with that. And also I'm contacting very different countries and I don't know exactly how much the cost for each one of them is to consider if it's, you know, inside my budget or not. So I have to rely on what manufacturers are saying. And Adele is right. Is there another way, like maybe the Social Enterprise Center have it, more resources that we can come and use it, or somewhere else where, you know, we can find more information so we can contact the right people, maybe filtering the research much more, because right now I haven't come across anything that I can filter my research over, even though I found all of these manufacturers from all of those events that are happening in Europe and in the UK that organize these organic skincare events where these companies comes, and I still wasn't able to find the right one using their resources.
I'm sorry that you've had so much trouble finding the right organization. I think the approach that you have taken, though, to go and meet with people at the events is right. I suggested one website, Compass, earlier on, and the only other database that we have that you can come in and use would be looking just at UK businesses. It wouldn't be looking internationally.
Okay. I mean, in the UK, I'm okay. I'm also looking for the UK manufacturer as well, which would be great. It's just that UK is very expensive. And at the moment, I cannot afford with the budget that we have to, you know, look for something in the UK. But if we can find a good manufacturer with good connections and, you know, trustworthy, then maybe we will be able to pay more to have, you know, proper manufacturing. I am even fine with that. It's just that it's so difficult to find if what they are saying is right. And most of the manufacturers are asking me to manufacture too much products, which I'm not at this stage because it's the beginning of the brand. So they want me to have like 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 to just produce the product that I'm looking for. Yeah, so maybe minimum where I can have a minimum or at least have sampling option to see if it's working. But
it has to be worth the manufacturer's while to produce. That's why they have a minimum that they want to produce. It has to be worth their while because of the cost it would take them to set up the machinery for your particular product. So that's why that's why they've got such a high minimum order, if you like. So that's something that's a problem that they then face. You see, so that's why they're asking you for that, really.
Yeah. So what would be the best option for someone like me who cannot do it on her own but need a manufacturer but with a minimum cost? Is there a way that I can find something like that?
Well, it's a question of hunting, I'm afraid. There's not going to be an easy answer. The other thing is that if you're importing it, is to consider what import duty and VAT you might have to pay, and that those are two very important costs that people importing sometimes overlook. So you will need to investigate if you need to pay VAT and if you need to pay import tax, import duties when you're bringing stuff in, because that will affect your bottom line. It might be that you then decide that actually manufacturing in the UK will work out cheaper.
Okay.
Have you thought about the import duty and the VAT or not yet?
I mean, I know that there would be charges because, you know, especially that now we are out of the UK if I'm doing in Europe, but I don't have a specific number of how much it will charge. So I was hoping that once I find the manufacturer, they would tell me when they are shipping the, you know, the products here, that how much VAT it will be costing me, because if they have done businesses with other companies, they would probably have more information about this. But I can imagine that it might not be cheap when VAT is applied. But in the UK, so I found a manufacturer in the UK, but it's a bit expensive. So I'm keeping them in hold to see if I can find something that I can afford, and then maybe go ahead with them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but anything, just many things that are imported, and skincare products is one of them. I think that you will have to pay an import tax on it, and you will need to think about how that factors into your financials. Okay.
But there is no information about how much exactly the VAT and stuff would be.
VAT is 20%. Can I just go back again and have a look for something? Sorry. Something that might help you is using a freight forwarder, and they would bring the products from the overseas country to the UK. That might help you. That's about registering for VAT. I think I found most of the business, most of the information about importing was actually going to be on the government's website. That was where I found most of the information about importing, but you will certainly have to pay import duty.
Okay. What did you say before this? Where I can find?
Yes. On the government's website, so gov.uk. And they had a whole section on importing. Has anybody else got any questions at all?
I have a question about just like for the future and using this
Yes.
tool in the future. So as obviously a lot of EU regulations and rules and laws are sort of being taken away, and as new UK specific laws and regulations are coming in as a consequence of the no deal Brexit, there's obviously a lot of changes that are going to be happening. How can we sort of rely on, to what level can we rely on COBRA to keep business owners up to date with these shifting and changing regulations? Is it updated every week? Is it updated as soon as things are known? Is it 100% safe to assume that whatever you see on COBRA is the current regulation?
Yes, so that every page is updated at least every 18 months, or they review it every 18 months. However, some of the pages are updated more often, as you say, when pieces of legislation change, especially the tax ones, for example. You'll find they're updated every February and March, ready for the new financial year in April. So they do keep abreast of the business opportunity profiles and other things like this, do keep abreast of what's going on, and you can see the date that each page is written and when it was last updated. So, for example, this one about moving goods between Great Britain and the EU was last updated in April. So you can see that, but it also it's why I highlighted the magazines and websites and the trade bodies, because they will be producing, that they're really on top of trying to keep their members up to date with all the changes in legislation that are going on, and including the ones that you've mentioned as a result of our leaving the EU. So it's about finding the sources of information, so not just COBRA, but looking further at different websites and trade bodies as well. They might produce their stuff online, they might produce it as a physical magazine, but the trade bodies tend to be very good at keeping people up to date with any changes like that.
Understood. Thank you, Esther. Questions, friends? Questions for Esther? I don't know, even if a coach has a question for someone that they know potentially isn't here, but who might want to see it on the recording, or
So I have a question.
Yes, hello.
Hi, that was great. Thank you. Super comprehensive, super interesting, and specifically useful for me working with Layla on the skincare as well.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, sometimes liability comes in. Is it very comprehensive in terms of who's responsible for what? Or is that more of a legal question? So if I give an example to that, if I'm offering a service where there's a partnership in play, whether that's a transactional one or an agreement, maybe it's childcare or something, and something goes wrong, does COBRA cover where the liability aspect comes out? Or is it something to sort of dig a bit deeper, and that's more of a legal question if you write a contract?
I think that's going to start to be something a bit more deeper than is covered on COBRA.
Okay, and does it give you pointers in the right kind of directions for that stuff in terms of the liability?
In terms of liability, well, it would be a question of if it's, say, to do with childcare, then there'll be different bits of childcare legislation, and any childcare business has to be registered with Ofsted. Okay. So a lot of the legal framework will come through Ofsted, so you might find that as a trade body, if you like, will help with that. Otherwise, that's going to start to be something that you would have to seek legal advice on, to go to a solicitor on. And
does COBRA as a resource, would that outlink to Ofsted and to other resources?
It does have this one here, which it calls sources of business information. It's very general. Mm-hmm. But you can see how it divides it up. So there's government departments and regulators, for example, hundreds of them. Things like the Care Quality Commission, they oversee care homes, things like that. And then Ofsted will be somewhere down here.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It is actually really useful.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can we look at the childcare business profile for a moment and see?
We can, yep.
Yeah, I'm just curious. We do have one entrepreneur who wants to start a childcare cafe, kind of like a social enterprise.
Was this person on the last training group as well?
Probably, yes. She was in ICE Academy.
Yes. Because there's quite a few of, it was trying to work out what was the best fit for her, wasn't it?
That's right.
But
this is actually an interesting point, because sometimes multiple pages might apply to a given business. So it would be smart for the business to read all of the different pages that might apply to them, and then make a more educated decision about which different aspects of compliance they want to pursue.
So I think the lady last time, she was talking about her providing the childcare, her and her staff providing the childcare, wasn't she?
Yes, but while the parents are actually in the cafe. So I believe it's not like a drop off and go, like a day
No.
nursery. It would be more that the parents are there kind of working on their personal work or university work or whatever it is. And then the children are minded and playing together so that the parents have more time to focus on themselves without having to pay high premiums for sort of like a nursery.
Mm. I think that somebody would need to read a number of these different ones. You'll see that they break where the regulations are different in the 4 countries. They break it down by country. So Wales, England, Northern Ireland, and Scotland. So it might be a question of reading a number of these business profiles to see, you know, to see what the different regulations are that they might have to comply with. But I think that it would probably, if the lady is taking responsibility for the children, then I think it's definitely going to have to be registered with Ofsted, is my gut feeling about it. And perhaps a day nursery then becomes nearer to what she is providing, as well as the cafe as well.
Oh, and then she would also want to go and look at the coffee shop one. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can sort of mix and match the business profiles and ensure that you're compliant in all of the different elements of the service.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And here, for example, one thing to pick up, all staff employed by the nursery must also have had a criminal record check. That will be another piece of legislation that people would need to think about. Anyone working with children or vulnerable adults will need to have had a CRB, criminal records check.
And this is one again, is around, obviously there's that, but this comes into sort of, if it's a partnership, who then takes that responsibility, I guess, would then be more legal.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you partnered with an existing organisation to provide childcare, but then that becomes more legal. So
yes, you would need to have a proper partnership agreement drawn up, so you understand who is liable for what and who is providing what service.
Yeah.
So there's a service level agreement. Yeah.
Working with children, no one ever said it was going to be easy.
I'm afraid not. No.
That's because they're so important.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last questions? We have about 3.5 minutes left of Esther's time. If you can squeeze in a request to take a look at something or to ask a question. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to ask another question. I'm being very annoying today.
Okay.
Not at all. No, Layla, that's cool, girl. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, they say.
Just wanted to ask, so I want to create a business bank account at the moment for my business, and I'm looking for different business accounts where I can see, you know, what their charges and stuff would be. And if I can find some more information in COBRA, like how they charge with when you have certain amount of money or the business, or, you know, when it starts. So I'm prepared beforehand how much I'm getting charged by the business, by the banks. Yes.
So there is a page about opening a business bank account. There's also a website which I believe is called Better Business Finance, and that is it was set up relatively recently, and I think there are a number of different banks and building societies that contribute to it, and it enables you to go on there to it covers not only bank accounts but things like loans and other forms of finance as well, but it enables you to do a comparison of particular products on there. I think it's called Better Business Finance.
Yeah, I found it. Yes.
Yeah. So here in COBRA, it doesn't recommend one particular bank over another, but it does tell you about what you need to be, about the different types of bank accounts and what you really need to consider when you're choosing how you bank with people or bank with a particular organisation.
Okay. That's great. Thank you so much. I will look at it. I found the information.
Yes. So yeah.
This is great. You guys don't even need to be like have Turn at all, because you could just use COBRA to read everything you need to know.
But I think organizations like Turn offer a human contact, and that is just as important as having reliable sources of information and having somebody that you can talk to and chew over your problems with. That's really the the advantages of organizations like Turn.
So true. Thank you, Esther. And just so that everyone knows, if they have more questions about COBRA, or even more questions about how to use the amazing resources at SBREC through their free membership, what can they do?
Yes, so please get in touch with us. I'm going to put in the chat bar. This will just take me a minute, because it took me a minute the other day. Here, some slides, and these slides have got all the details about how to contact us. But I will also put in our email address. On the slides here, they're PDF slides. The slides will tell you, will give our physical address, our website. They'll tell you about COBRA and about joining, and how to, and when we're open, basically, so you can come in and see us.
Thank you so much, Esther. And I'm going to send out the slides as well as the contact information to the entire cohort. So that's pretty much it for this webinar, friends. Thank you so much.